Joining me now with some breaking news is Paul Butler, MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor, and MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. And the breaking news that we have for you is that, to the surprise of many, including, I'll be honest, myself, the Supreme Court has denied Donald Trump's bid to stay his criminal sentence. He is scheduled to be sentenced tomorrow to no jail time, but as of tomorrow, he will officially be sentenced for the 34-count felony conviction in New York. The Supreme Court asked and answered. They have said no to Donald Trump's bid to stay his sentencing. Ladies first, let me go to you, Lisa Rubin, your reaction to that.
Well, Joy, like you, I'm somewhat surprised, not because I thought that the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision should have justified a stay here, but because I thought Donald Trump ultimately would have enough votes to go for the stay. Instead, he lost narrowly by a vote of 5-4. And critically, Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Amy Coney Barrett voting with the three liberals to deny Donald Trump that stay of sentencing that he sought. I want to read to you and our viewers the one paragraph that the majority of 5 justices wrote, because I think it's really telling the reasons why they denied the stay. They say, first, the alleged evidentiary violations at President-elect Trump's state court trial can be addressed in the ordinary course on appeal, meaning he can be sentenced and he can still pursue an appeal. And the New York state court system, he doesn't lose that right by virtue of being sentenced. In fact, it's because, and as a result of the sentencing being final, that he would have appellate rights to begin with. And then they go on to say, second, the burden that sentencing will impose on the president-elect's responsibilities is relatively insubstantial in light of the trial court's stated intent to impose a sentence of unconditional discharge after a brief virtual hearing. In other words, the burdens here on him are negligible because the trial court judge, Juan Merchan, has already said in an opinion that he intends to sentence Donald Trump to unconditional discharge, which means no penalty whatsoever. No jail time, no probation, no fine, not even community service as far as I understand it. What the sentencing then does is it's twofold. One, it finalizes the conviction and it makes Donald Trump officially the one thing that he has not yet been, a convicted felon, and it will make him a convicted felon when he takes office on January 20th. But the second thing it will do is force him, at least virtually, that is, because Juan Merchan has given him the option not to show up in person, it will force him to stand before the court and have the judge explain the rationale for his sentence and why he thought it was imperative that Donald Trump be sentenced, given the gravity of the crimes. He outlined this to some extent in the opinion that he wrote on January 3rd, denying the last of Trump's motions to try and avoid this indictment and to vacate the verdict. But he's going to have an opportunity to say his piece in open court and look at Donald Trump, at least on a computer screen, and make it clear to everyone present and the historical record why it is that we're all sitting there, Joy.
Extraordinary stuff. Paul Butler, are you as surprised as I am?
It's a shame that we have to be surprised when the Supreme Court actually abides by the rule of law. But yes, I am surprised. Last year, Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felonies. That was 7 months ago. Any other criminal defendant would have been sentenced a long time ago. So now Donald Trump will finally receive his just desserts. Now it's unconditional relief, which is a gift from the judge to Donald Trump. It basically, he gets his finger wagged at in court. And I think that the judge will have a lot to say to Donald Trump tomorrow virtually, since Donald Trump doesn't have to be there in person, that Donald Trump will not like hearing, but then it will be game over. He will go on to be president of the United States. You know, last year, Donald Trump said, or actually earlier, last year, Donald Trump said that the sentencing needed to happen after the election, and the judge went along with that. But now Trump was saying that the sentencing should wait either 4 years until his administration's over or never happen. And apparently for at least 6 members of the Supreme Court, that was a bridge too far.
And I'm shocked that John Roberts, I'm just going to be honest, one of his appointees, Amy Coney Barrett, went along with the liberals on the court. No surprise about Alito, who was just chatting with Trump on the phone about a job for one of his former clerks. And His moral compass is very clear. But John Roberts strikes me as somebody who's made it his mission to protect Donald Trump, to protect his feelings, to protect his ability to act boldly, as he said in his ruling that Donald Trump has absolute immunity and he can commit any crime he wants. So I am shocked, and not because I thought there was any merit to Donald Trump's argument, but like Lisa Rubin, I just assumed John Roberts is there to protect Trump at all costs.
And I think that's absolutely right.
But it's a reasonable assumption. That's right.
And there's a tension between Roberts' fealty to Donald Trump and 100%. His fealty to the legitimacy of the court.
100%. And the thing is, I specifically want to talk to you about is that you and I have covered a lot of criminal trials and cases, and you wrote a whole book about incarceration, and particularly incarceration of people of color. I was a couple weeks old finding out that Donald Trump could be convicted of a 34-count felony and still not be called a felon simply because he had not been sentenced. I did not know that that was the rule, and I thought that might be news to many particularly young black and brown defendants, that until they are actually sentenced, they don't have to check that box that stops them from getting jobs and stops them from getting apartments, et cetera.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so two things there. First, Donald Trump's lawyer said, oh, he can't be a felon because then he'll have all of these collateral consequences like the ones that you mentioned. Again, Donald Trump has never cared about collateral consequences or any real reform of the criminal legal system until it happened to him. And still, he doesn't care about those black and brown people who are the main victims. He only cares about himself and other rich billionaires. But Alvin Bragg said that this sentence needed to go forward tomorrow because there needed to be respect for the jury verdict, for the rule of law, and for the principle that no person is above the law. Mm-hmm. In the three other criminal cases, that respect for the rule of law and equal justice of the law, we haven't seen that. Indeed. But in this case, with D.A. Bragg, finally, justice, a little bit of justice is done.
And the only justice has been done by the state of New York, by Alvin Bragg and by Judge Marchand and by that jury. They are heroic in the sense they're the only people to have ever held this man accountable for anything he's done in this country that he's done in aversion to the law.